Hi guys, welcome back to
Hi.
our channel. For today's video, we're going to interrupt the How to Save a Life series that we actually started for something equally as important because of the way it has taken over the health system of the whole world. We're talking about the coronavirus infection, right? As we all know, this virus was first discovered in China in this December 2019, and it has ravaged through China and also spread to some other countries around. So because of the main importance of the infection by this virus, we are choosing to talk about it today. So we have some questions, so frequently asked questions that maybe some people have doubts about and they need more clarification about to talk about today. So we're going to be answering these questions for you guys so that you guys can better understand the infection by this virus and how to go about it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get right to it with the first question. So, Celestina, please can you tell us what actually is a coronavirus?
Well, the coronavirus is actually a family of different viruses, right? Such as the SARS, which is the severe acute respiratory syndrome, or the MERS, which is the Middle East respiratory syndrome. So these are just examples of other types of coronaviruses, as we said that it's a family of virus. So this present coronavirus is what we call the new or the novel coronavirus, which is a different kind of virus that wasn't identified in humans before until December last year.
Okay.
So now, is this new virus the same as the SARS virus?
Okay, so luckily for us, the coronavirus 2019, as they're calling it, is not the same as SARS. So at least that's some kind of good news because SARS is actually much more deadly than this virus at the moment.
Yeah.
Next question is, how can one spread this disease?
Okay, so generally this coronavirus is a respiratory disease, right? So it can be spread from person to person, principally since it's a zoonotic virus, which means that it's actually spread from animals to humans, but then it can also be spread from person to person. So at this moment, the World Health Organization hasn't been able to identify which specific animal infected the first person who got this virus, from which animal it was spread from. But it's also important to know that one person can also spread the virus to another person. If somebody is infected and the person starts to develop the cold, the flu, and coughs or sneezes in open air where there's like a lot of people around, anybody who is close to that person can stands the risk of getting infected by this virus, because generally if the saliva or the droplets of saliva comes in contact with somebody's eyes or the nose or the mouth, the person can be infected with this virus. Now if you come in contact, or like maybe you touch somebody who has been infected, maybe the person has touched their face, cleaned their mucus, and then they don't clean their hands and then they shake you, you also stand the risk of getting this virus. If without washing your hand with soap and water, you also touch your nose, your mouth, or your eyes, so you also stand the risk of getting this virus. Now if you also touch a contaminated surface, maybe like a chair, a table, a staircase, some place that has already been contaminated by this virus, without washing your hands or cleaning your hands appropriately, and you touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, you also stand the risk of getting this virus.
Okay.
So next question is, what is the incubation period of the coronavirus?
Okay, so basically an incubation period is the time you get infected, the duration between the time you get infected and the time you begin to show symptoms, right? So based on the studies that the World Health Organization has carried out, the incubation period of the coronavirus is between 2 to 11 days. So that is why it's important that we all be careful, because somebody might be infected but they are not, at the moment they are not showing symptoms. So we all have to be careful, because you might have a contact with someone who is already infected but because of the incubation period has not yet presented any symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is, what actually are the symptoms of the coronavirus?
Now, the signs and symptoms varies. It could vary from just a mild cold or a flu, or it could also come in form of a severe illness. Now, it's whether one person will develop a mild cold or flu, or if the person will develop the severe illness, depends on different factors, like how strong your immune system is, your lifestyle too is very important, and the strength of this virus in your body. That's the quantity, more or less, right? So there are all these factors that and also if you have like a chronic disease or not, if you have other underlying problems, also depends on the severity of this infection. So like the common cold or flu could be just the normal cold, maybe the cough, the sneezing, the runny nose, the sore throat, right? So the maybe weakness or diarrhea or sometimes fever, right? So this could just constitute a mild cold or flu. But the severe infection is where we start having the difficulty breathing, right? The Wuhan's pneumonia in this case, which is very characteristic of this novel coronavirus, that would characterize the severe infection, right? So next question is, who is actually at risk of getting the severe variety of this infection?
Okay, so those people who would have a higher risk of presenting the complication, in this case, the Wuhan pneumonia, which she has mentioned, are basically people who are old and people who have an underlying disease like hypertension, diabetes, and this is what the World Health Organization has told us based on studies that are being carried out. But personally, as a doctor, I would say that anybody who has a very weak immune system, people who have immune disorders, be it cancer or AIDS, anything that affects your immune system can increase your chance of getting a severe complication of the coronavirus. And also, I also consider that kids and newborn babies who have, because generally kids and newborn babies have a weaker immune system as compared to adults, so they also should stand a risk of having the complications of the coronavirus. Yeah. Next question. So now that we know the symptoms, what can we do to protect ourselves?
Now, basically, in order to prevent coronavirus infection, you have to practice the hand and respiratory hygiene, right? You have to make sure that you wash your hands frequently, especially when you've gone out and you've touched a lot of places. You have to always wash your hand with water and soap, or you use an alcohol-based hand rub, like the antibacterial gels, because those are alcohol based, because these substances are shown to be able to kill this virus. And we know that this virus generally they don't last for a long time, just a few hours at the moment. That's what we know. So washing your hand frequently after coming in contact with probably contaminated surfaces, or after you've been in contact with someone who is suspected to have the virus. If you wash your hand with water and soap or alcohol-based hand rub, you reduce the risk of actually getting this virus, and you actually help to prevent the transmission of this virus to other people. Now, the next one, which is the putting of the mask, is basically for people who live in China and maybe the countries around China who have reported the presence of the coronavirus in their country, or if you are taking care of somebody who has the virus, or you're in close contact with somebody who has the virus. So you also have to protect yourself by putting on masks. Now, you have to try to only use this mask the way it should be used. Do not use single-use mask for a long time. When they get damp, you dispose them properly into a trash can that is closed, and try not to touch the front of the mask too much. If you want to put on the mask or remove the mask, you have to touch the string that goes behind your ear in order to put on or remove this mask. Now, when you want to dispose the mask, after disposing the mask, you have to make sure you wash your hands with water and soap, or use your antibacterial alcohol-based antibacterial gel to clean your hands before you touch another mask and put it on, right? And never touch the front of the mask too much. If not, you can also contaminate this mask, and then it defeats the purpose, right? So this is another measure, but it doesn't mean that everyone has to use the mask. No, it's just people who live in the areas that are categorized as higher risk areas of getting this infection. Now, you have to also practice safe food practices, right? Which means we know that these viruses do not take it from animals to people. So whenever you buy meat, you have to be sure to cook the meat properly. You can't eat raw meat or half done meat. Make sure it's properly and thoroughly cooked in order to kill these viruses if it's present, also if they are present in the meat, in order to kill these viruses so that you don't get infected afterwards. And then avoid contact with someone who is suspected or confirmed to have this virus. Keep at least 1 meter distance between yourself and the person. And these are more or less the preventive methods that we can apply in order to reduce or prevent the transmission of this virus.
Okay.
And the next question is, can antibiotics be used to treat the coronavirus infection?
Okay, so that's a big giant no. N-O, no. We've said this in one of our first videos that antibiotics are strictly for bacterial infections. And just like the name says, we are talking about coronavirus. It's a virus. So an antibiotic will not treat a virus, right? So at the moment, the doctors in China are working on a cure, and we've heard of reports, there's nothing confirmed at the moment, but reports say that they have been able to make a cocktail of various drugs, and basically they are antiviral drugs that have been combined to attack this disease. So no antibiotics, please. Don't even think of it. No antibiotics for coronavirus. Okay, so I'm sure so many people out there have this question too in their heads, and there's so many people out there who are expecting packages from China, right? All those businessmen, Igbo men, China, their containers and all. So if you're expecting a package from China, what are you supposed to do? Do you not receive it at all, or what is it? Is it safe for us to receive a package from China at the moment?
At the moment, according to the World Health Organization, it is totally safe for you to receive your package from China. So don't worry about losing your business, right? Now, generally, according to the studies that have been conducted, the coronavirus has just a few hours of life. In this case, more or less 4 hours, after which it dies. So it doesn't have a very long time to live. So especially for those of you who live in countries that are very far away from China, you can totally order packages from China, because by the time they get to you, these viruses would have died. So yes, it is safe for you to receive packages from China.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, big relief. So the last question is, what is the mortality rate of the infection by coronavirus?
Okay, so the mortality rate, so far so good with everything, with the cases that have been studied, is 2%, which means that for every 50 cases, 1 person dies. Okay, and which I consider as a good news, because as compared to SARS, the mortality rate for SARS was 10%, which means for every 50 people, 5 people were dying from SARS. So this is good news for us. So at the moment, there have been 20,717 cases of the coronavirus, and 427 out of these cases have died, while 781 of them have recovered. Now the rest of them are between recovery and death, so we don't really have those numbers, but it's also important for us to focus on the fact that 781 people have recovered, which is higher than the amount of people who have died, and so I believe there is hope. So we should all be careful, just like we have explained how to prevent the disease, we should all take that into consideration. But we should also be hopeful, because this is the mortality rate is low, and the doctors in China are doing everything possible to get a cure for this disease before it begins to spread further than China. So we hope that you've enjoyed this video and we've been able to clear your doubts about coronavirus. Please remember to like this video, share the video, leave a comment. If there's something we haven't touched and you need us to touch on coronavirus, please leave a comment and we'll get back to you. And also subscribe, please subscribe to our channel, YouTube, All Around Health Talk. And we'll see you next week when we continue with how to save a life. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.